Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Continuing our discussion on verse number 19. Yadyat sukham bhavet, whatever happiness is there, is felt, is experienced, then tat brahmaiva pratibimbanat. That is because of the Brahman being reflected, where in the what is called upalabdhisthanam. Upalabdhisthanam means wherever Brahman is recognized. Brahman is not, Brahman is recognized everywhere, but we have a buddhi, mind, etc. We have a faculty, a sukshma faculty we have, and that is something which we understand, that this sukshma faculty in the form of the buddhi, manaha, etc. is the place where Brahman is recognized. And then this is the strength of the Pratibimbavada. Why? This is the strength of the Pratibimbavada because of the fact that the buddhi being the reflective medium, it shines in a certain way and allows one to understand that one is Brahman. So this is a very strong point of Pratibimbavada, and then that calls for the the purification of the buddhi to be able to discern the truth of the self, because the truth of the self shines in the buddhi. And the Bhagavad Gita also makes a reference to this by talking about in the third chapter, towards the end of the third chapter, it talks about the fog on the mirror, which we have also discussed. And the fog on the mirror obscures the reflection on the face. And then, so the verse number 19 connects to the things that follow. And he says in the Bhagavad Gita that the cleaning of the mirror is the removal of the ragadveshas in the heart. The cleaning of the mirror is the removal of all kinds of impurities in the mind, heart, buddhi, etc. And so here he talks about, in verse number 19, we need to touch upon one more thing. Vrittishu antarmukhasya asya. So in addition to the purification of the buddhi, the purification from what? From the ghora and the mudha vrittis, of course. What other purification will be there? So the tendencies towards rajasic, tamasic, etc., impressions and reactions from the unconscious, the ghora, mudha, thoughts and habits, habitual patterns, that is what one needs freedom from. And so the purification is the first order of business, where one practices, and we have seen those practices. That's why I'm taking the text in such a way that when we talk about a particular thing that the Panchadashikara talks about, we also talk about the related practices associated with that particular habit pattern or that particular vritti. That is how we have been doing that. So with the help of these practices, one grows into banishing, or at best or even suspending the effect of the ghora and mudha, the what should I say, the preponderance of the ghora and mudha ways of being recognized, reflected in the buddhi, in the mind. And here he gives a very important sadhana here. Vrittishu antarmukhasya mukhasu, vrittishu antarmukhasu asya nirvignam pratibimbanam. Another thing to be very important thing to remember for the purification is to direct the mind inward, to direct the vrittis inward. And here there is a very important verse in the Kathopanishad. In the Kathopanishad there is a verse. What is the verse? Paranchikhani vyatrinat swayambhuhu parak pashyati na antaratman. Kaschit dhiraha antaratmanam aikshat avritta chakshuhu amritatvam icchan. This is the Vakya from the Kathopanishad. What does it say? It says that the Lord has as though destroyed the human race. Really? How? The Lord has destroyed the human race by putting all the means of knowledge, eyes, ears, etc., they are facing outwards. And what is the injunction in the Upanishad? Go within, go within. How to go within? When all the chakshus, the eyes, the nose, the ears, the tongue, etc. are facing outwards. And the Jagat, whether we like to admit it or not, is beautiful. It's got so many things that keep calling. And just as one is sitting down to meditate, then the smell of samosas frying wafts from the neighbor's house. This is my own experience. This happened to me a few days back. And so this shows the difficulty and the impossibility of going within. I don't know if they were samosas, something nice was frying, that's what. So could have been pakodas too. But this is the difficulty. So Bhagavan is, here Lord Yama says it's very frustrating. Bhagavan doesn't seem to be a very fair person here. On the one hand, he wants all of us to go within, and on the other hand, the sense organs are all facing outward. That's why it takes one person with discrimination. Kaschit dhiraha. One person, just one person with some viveka, and of course vairagya. We have been talking a lot about vairagya. One person with vairagya, one person with viveka, to interrupt this. Antaratmanam aikshat, has darshan of antaratma. Antaratma here is Bhagavan as the truth of oneself. Darshan, again within quotes. And so how, avritta chakshuhu, with a revolutionized vision. It's not that the eyes turn backwards, and then look within. No, it's not literal. It's a figurative looking within, where one takes the responsibility for the ghora and mudha vrittis in a manner without blaming oneself and without blaming others or the stars or the situation or the Jagat or Bhagavan. This is what it entails. So, this inward focus is not some kind of a selfish, solipsistic affair or an enterprise. The inward focus is a natural outgrowth, is a natural prasada of one's emotional maturity. But there is a catch 22. Until and unless one gains the emotional maturity, the inward focus will not be there. And until and unless one focuses inward, the emotional maturity will not be there. What to do? This is, this is a quintessential paradox or catch 22. Vedanta is full of them. And so, the Kathopanishad gives the clue here. Gives the clue, and we have talked about this already, so I'm just connecting the quote. Gives the clue what it entails. It entails a certain nishchaya, a sankalpa, a buddhi that is totally focused on moksha, Brahman, knowledge, because there is no other kind of moksha that is gained through anything else but knowledge. And so the buddhi is focused on that, and then it's able to heal. The person is able to heal themselves from the force, the pressure of public opinion. This is where the block is. The public opinion. What will people think of me if I'm just sitting and staring at my computer all the time taking Vedanta classes? What will people say? This is a very big obstacle, and so that the majority opinion is not always correct. First of all, the majority opinion is not always correct. Why is it not always correct? Because frankly, the majority is and has been wrong historically many times. The first scientist who said the earth is round was Ptolemy, 6th century. And he was also the first one who said that the earth goes round the sun. Nobody believed him. In fact, because they all thought the earth was like a chapati, flat. Majority. And that the same majority, the majority opinion was responsible for declaring him as a witch and burning him at stake. It was not until Galileo came along that people were finally ready to understand the same fact. So, majority opinion doesn't always mean that it is correct. And especially in matters of Atmavidya, never go by majority opinion. Majority means samsara. Majority means clinging to the safety of the status quo. It's no longer sink or swim together. It is always sink together. And I don't mean to spell it S-Y-N-C. It is S-I-N-K. Sink together. That's all it is. Glub, glub, glub. This is what it is. And so the majority, you see, this is the everyone has the desire, the longing for moksha. And one is hardwired to be free of moksha, for which one has to be free of ghora and what is the other one? Tamasic or moodha vrittis. And then not many people have the resolve, have the wherewithal to move beyond this, to move beyond whatever it takes to pursue the knowledge. Because they don't see, they are not convinced of the connection between the sadhana and the sadhya. Sadhya, the end, sadhana, means. There is a means end disconnect. The sadhya is, I want to be free. And what is the intermediary factor? I am already free. Oh, so what do I have to do? I have to know this. So the knowing becomes the sadhana for the freedom, because the freedom is siddhavastu. It is already established. It is not sadhya. It is not to be manufactured, because a manufactured infinitude is not infinity at all, and it is an impossibility. So infinity, Ananda being centered on me, I have to discover it. If this is not understood, one goes round and round without a goal. That's why one goes goal, goal. Goal, goal in Hindi means round and round. So this, this is where most people are at. And we know this from experience, and we know this also from the Bhagavad Gita. Manushyanam sahasreshu, the opening verses of the 7th chapter make this abundantly clear. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. Yatataamapi siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tatvatah. So out of the teeming millions of people, one person discovers the connection between the sadhana and the sadhya, between the ends and the means, and then adopts the right means. Then second, out of the several hundreds of people adopting the right means, one alone is successful in knowing me as the truth of themselves. This is not meant to, this statistic is not meant to depress the people who are mumukshus. Even though it sounds depressing, it's supposed to encourage all the people who are studying Vedanta, so that one knows that one is on the right track, and one belongs to a, what's the word for it? One belongs to a small but determined group of people who want to get rid of samsara. It is to encourage, not to cause any kind of dejection. So, the sadhana and sadhya, when they are not aligned, which is the case with most people, then the pain and the sorrows of caused by ajnanam and its effects in the form of ghora, moodha vritti, the what happens, that pain needs immediate gratification. And the immediate gratification is gained by recourse to things such as what? It is something or the other, like movies or malls. Mall is spelt, remember always, M-A-U-L. Here, that is a place where you go to be mauled of your pocketbook and your sanity in one go. This is what it is. And so this is where the mistake is made. The sadhana is wrong. So one is born in a society with people around oneself following the wrong sadhana. The wrong sadhanas become the habitual orientation. And it takes courage, it takes viveka, it takes a certain sankalpa, strength, intentionality, to break through the mold that has been given, the mold of the status quo which one has inherited from one's family of origin, from one's culture, from one's society. And what is the mold? Don't rock the boat. Just go and do what your ancestors did. Grow up. Complain some more. After that, get married. And then, of course, after marriage is only complaints. And then what? Then have children. Some more complaints. Keep on complaining. And that's why there are neighbors given to you. And there are some, outlets given to you. In the ancient time, they didn't have movies. They had yajnas, where everybody would gather together and pray for something that they wanted. And then what? Grow old, get more complaints, and then die away, and then hope for a better afterlife, and do some more yajnas to go to heaven and click a selfie with Indra, with the arm around Lord Indra. And then what? Be born again. Pray also for a better birth. and be born again. This is the status quo that is inherited, because don't rock the boat. Already the life is full of difficulties and full of surprises. So just follow the track. Well, the track is leading, and some people, because of Purva Punya, Ishvara's grace, and one's own Atma Anugraha, one's own receptivity, understand that this track, supposedly the safe track, is leading me to a ditch. And in fact, all of you are in a ditch. One person recognizes that. And this is called Shubhecha. This is a very auspicious Icha. When you recognize that, the desire to not fall into the ditch becomes very, very clear. This is the time you make a U-turn, face your own source. When the rivers do that in India, sometimes, to avoid an obstacle, they appear to go backwards. And that place in India is seen as a place of pilgrimage. Not just Sangama, when two rivers, become one. That, of course, is also rife with metaphor, that oneness. But here, when the river goes back to face its source, we pray to the presiding goddess of the river and say, "Oh Mother, make me strong enough to turn back to my source." This is the inward look. That inward look is not literal, that we are talking about in verse number 19. It is the courage to go back to the source. And why does one need courage? Because there are so many forces that are inimical, mostly within oneself. What will people think? I'm doing this, oh no. So everybody studies Vedanta, at least in the beginning, with a certain apology. Oh, I'm so sorry, but I really like this. I'm so sorry. And then people in the beginning are encouraging. "Oh, you're attending Gita classes? How cute. Very nice. Share something with me." But then when they see that you are in earnest, you know what happens? Then there is a difficulty. Then they start goading you and pricking you from all sides. How many years you've been studying Bhagavad Gita? Home study course, all that? 4 years, and you're still getting angry? You're still getting impatient? You're still getting mad? You're still getting sad? Any use? I don't think so. And so this, all to face these kinds of things, one needs courage. One needs, because there is that group that group thinking has the tendency to bring one down. Therefore, it just needs one person, says the Kathopanishad, to be able to override, to press the override button on the force of samsara in the form of what everyone thinks you should be doing. And then that encounters, that of course it's all about oneself. So what everyone thinks I should be doing is fine. Let them think. Why should it affect me? Because there are hooks. There are hooks. Hook number 1, the desire for self-approval. Hook number 2, the desire for approval from other people, if hook number 1 is not understood. If I don't understand that I'm hankering for my own approval, and I'm hankering for the pleased self, I'm hankering to know that self that is already approved, which is in the vision of the Upanishad, it is already approved. If I don't understand this, then other people's approval becomes a foremost pursuit in one's life. One wants other people's approval so badly that one is willing to forego even one's sankalpa to study, to be free. This is something to be understood. And so the inward focus means the ability to study about the truth of oneself unimpeded by other people's opinions, other people's expectations. And that is where the strength of resolve is needed. And that is where the prayer and everything uh, is very, very important, to strengthen that antahkarana, to be free of following the wrong sadhanas. And so that is why in verse 20 he goes on to say that Satchidananda, which is Brahman, shines. And again here is a very big switch. He switches to Avachedavada. This is a very nice cusp here. He switches, as I mentioned earlier, to Avachedavada, and he talks about, now he is going to talk about Upadhi Vishesha. Upadhi, there is again no English translation unless you want to say Upadi. That's the only way to translate it, that's all. Upadhi can be, I have looked at, translations, and they call it limited adjunct. In fact, this translation, in my mind at least, obfuscates the word more than it clarifies it. So we can say that Upadhi is can be defined as an as-though container, an as-though finite container crafted by the time-space matrix within time and space to as though hold Brahman, which is timeless, which is infinite. Like even, and the Avachedavadins talk about the quintessential example of pot space. So space, if there is a pot and the space inside the pot, when we say pot space, and then let us also further say that the pot space has a human mind. So the pot space will be keeping on saying, let me out, I'm trapped here, I want to join space. What is the difference between pot space and space? No difference at all. And the container, the quote-unquote container, is as though. The container cannot be real. The container being as though, then the space is space. And the pot space with a human mind needs a guru, a space guru, not a spaced out guru, okay? A space guru to tell it, you are space. You don't have to break open the pot, or rather give up the upadhi to understand that you are space. In fact, you are not in pot. Pot is in you, so to speak. So therefore, the teaching of the space guru in the pot space example is Vedanta for the pot, who then understands, not for the pot space, who then understands that the as though limiting upadhi does not have to be limiting at all. And so the upadhi bheda, the differences in upadhi, determine the extent to which all the three quote-unquote aspects of Brahman, which is aspectless, partless, is found, is manifest. The upadhi, the limitations and the finitude of the upadhi determines the extent to which Brahman is available in that upadhi. This is a very important discussion, and as I said, this is Avachedavada, which is upadhi centric. So any difficulties is because of seeing Brahman in a particular upadhi fully means from the standpoint of Satchidananda, Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Seeing again is within quotes. Seeing means comprehending, understanding as the truth of oneself. Because if you try to see Brahman as outside of yourself, nothing will happen, because Brahman is you alone. Drigeva natu drishyate. The seer is never seen because it cannot be objectified. So seeing here is cognitive understanding. So then, so what happens? Mrit shiladishu, in the lump of clay, stone, mountain, etc., satta eva vyajyate. We know that they exist. Why? Because we can objectify them. So the existence is there, and the existence you can point out to. Mrit Sat. Mrit Sat means Mrit exists. Stone Sat, mountain Sat, rock Sat, all these things. Exists. But we make the mistake of thinking they exist in time and space. Time and space is taken away, and then what? Then that leaves us with existence, meaning the upadhi is cognitively superseded in the understanding, focusing on existence alone. So how is the existence of a rock understood? The rock has, the rock has two kinds of things within it. One is the objectifiable name and form, which has, which we call rock. A word called rock, which has a meaning, which we understand by when we use the word rock. This is called vachyartha, the literal meaning of the word rock. So when I say rock, an Ishta rock forms in your mind, big, small, and jagged, smooth, brown, black, grey, yellow, or whatever. The imagination is literally so vast. So one imagines whatever kind of rock. So the pet rock comes into the mind. And then what? Then, this is called vachyartha, the literal meaning of the word rock. But suppose we are trying to see the rock as Brahman. Then what do? Then the name and form is put aside. What do you mean put aside? Cognitively. And you go in for that which is the indirect meaning, not the direct meaning. Direct meaning is rock, word rock, name rock, form rock. And what is it that we can all agree about the rock? That it exists. And the existence of the rock, unlike the human's existence, is spanning billions of years. If the rock could tell a story, we would be really riveted with, it would be a wonderful narrative, because it would talk about billions of years ago when it was a tree in a forest and then it became a rock. It would talk about the process of petrification. It would talk about dinosaurs. It would talk about all kinds of ancient animals that walked this earth, about which we are still discovering. We don't know all of them. It would talk about the trees and the ancient flora that are extinct now. It would have a story that is billions and billions of years ago. This is what happened, it would say. So, but still, even the billions of years ago, it is still trapped in the time-space matrix. If we want to look at the rock as Brahman, we have to go in for what is invariable in the presence of the rock. And in this question, what is invariable in the presence of the rock? The answer is hidden. It is presence. Rock, present. Rock, Sat. Rock is. So we go for what is called the lakshyartha, the indirect meaning of the word exists, existence, presence, and even the word rock. So the word rock, the name and form has been put aside, and we are only looking at the fact that the rock is present, just like all these things are present. And the presence, which is called existence, asti, satta, satyam, sat, all of them are synonyms. So the presence alone is. So here we have done a little bit of a transcendence from focusing on the name and the form of the rock. We have graduated to looking at it as a manifestation of Brahman's presence. Brahman, from the standpoint of Satchidananda, can be said to have three expressions or a threefold definition. In the rock, verse number 20 says, the presence alone is discernible through this mechanism of giving up the upadhi cognitively, not discussing the upadhi, transcending the upadhi in order to look at what is common in all the upadhis. They exist. The existence of that upadhi does not belong to the name and form. Name and form, as we see, keeps shifting. Even in the case of the rock, it was a tree billions of years ago. Now it is a rock. So the name and form has shifted. First it was tree, then it was a petrified tree, and then it finally became a rock, a river rock, perhaps. And so it has the name and form has over the decades, over the hundreds of years, billions of years, has undergone many changes. Shape has undergone changes, shape has shifted, time has shifted, name has shifted, meaning has shifted. But what is there? Tree is. Billions of years ago, petrified forest is. And then some other, some other intermediary form of the rock is. And now rock is. The is constant. The is does not belong to the rock, it belongs to Brahman. This is where Panchadashikara, Svatmavidyananda ji, wants us to go now. This, in the technical Shastric terms, is called, what is it called? Bhagatyaga Lakshana. Lakshana means the indirect meaning of something. The definition of something is called Lakshana. How do you get to the that in the rock and in any object that exists? How do you get to the existence? You have to give up something, and then you have to retain something. What is it that you give up? You give up existence and retain the name and form? No. You give up the name and form and then catch hold of that which is there. And that is Brahman. Sat. Actually, don't even go to Brahman. That is simply, we can say, rock exists. And before the rock, what was existing? Tree exists. Before that, molecule exists. Particle exists. So the name and, atom exists. So name and form, atom, molecule, particle, sprout, seed, sprout, bush, tree, petrification, maybe earthquakes, whatever contributed to it. Global warming, global cooling, earthquakes, climate changes, etc. Sedimentation, and then rock. All these are names and forms. because the name and form signifies two things. One, that it has already undergone certain changes, and that this is a shifting reality. Every object in the universe has a nomenclature, a name that signifies these shifts, and the form that signifies these shifts. But what remains constant is the canvas of the shiftless, nameless, formless entity, which is simply called existence, Sat. That doesn't shift. In fact, that is the canvas on which all the changes take place. Like in a movie, the screen is there. In villages in India, they used to bring the screen, usually some kind of a stitched and torn curtains, and then they would be somehow erected in the village, and then they would have those old-fashioned reels and projectors and everything like that. So Ramayana is being telecast, is being broadcast on this screen, and then Rama is going to the forest, followed by Lakshmana, followed by Sita. And then the reel has to be changed. Suddenly it is all blank. And just there is white light. The screen is just there. And then as children we would go and feel the screen. Where did Rama go? Where did Sita go? Where are all these people? So when Rama moves, the screen doesn't move. Screen simply is. This is what is called Satta. And because the screen is stationary, Rama, Lakshmana, Sita can move. Go all the way from Ayodhya to Maharashtra and to Sri Lanka. They can go. Because the screen is stationary, we can enjoy the movement. And that stationary being is you. The one who is looking at the rock is you. Rock Sat, you Sat. So that presence is in common. Oh, so wait a minute, I am looking at myself? Yes. In a manner of speaking, yes. This is Sarvatma Bhava, seen solely from the standpoint of presence. Rock, present. And the same thing we can say to everything in the universe enjoys presence. What kind of a presence? A borrowed presence. The presence is not inherent to the name and form. Because even as we observe, the name and form gets destroyed, the presence continues. A small flower, a bud. Rose bud is. Next day also rosebud is, rosebud is, rosebud is. Then blooming rose is, blooming rose is, blossomed rose is, fully bloomed rose is, and then tired and wilted rose is, withered rose is, petalless, whether you call it a rose or not, is, petal is. Then after that, then there is a rainfall, let us say, and then that rainfall mixes the petals into the earth. Compost is. Another rose bush is. And the cycle continues. The is continues throughout. No, you Vedantins are Vachalas. Vachalas means you're clever in speech. You just speak and then mystify the whole thing. The truth is, rose is not, rose isn't. Rose is gone. Okay. Potato, we will say. The Vedantin will say. It's just, rose is not. Okay, I give you that freedom to say rose is not. But I will point out that even when you want to talk about the absence of the rose, you are constrained to use the word is. As in rose is not. What do you mean by saying rose is not? Rose is not any longer in its particular shape and form. name and form. That is what you're trying to say. Rose is not. You're still constrained to use the word is. Absence of the rose is. So it's very clear that isness does not belong to the rose. Isness is unaffected by time and space. Isness is Ishvara. That's why if you write Ishvara in English, what are the first two letters? Is. See? So easy Vedanta is. Very easy. If you remember this, then it's very, very easy. The first letter, that is, resolves into I. The first letter of Ishvara. This is how, this is what is that? This is an English Mahavakya, okay? Yeah. So, for ease of assimilation. So, this Brahman is seen from the standpoint of isness, is manifest in the rock, because we can cognitively through bhaga tyaga lakshana. Tyaga, giving up. What do you give up? You give up anything that is affected by time and space. Name and form is given up, because that is not permanent. So the only thing that is there is existence, and then we use it, and that is retained. Bhaga, retention. Tyaga, giving up. This is how we understand and look at Brahman in the rock. So Bhagatyaga Lakshanaya, through this operation called Bhagatyaga, you retain something and then you give something up. You give that up which is simply dragging everyone down, meaning the finitude is given up to cognitively appreciate the infinite, which is giving the finite name and form a beingness, so to speak. So the beingness or the isness of the rock does not belong to the rock very clearly. It belongs to Brahman. So therefore he says in verse 20, Mrit Shiladishu Satta Eva Vyajyate. The existence alone of Brahman, or actually we should say the existence that is Brahman, is manifest in the rock, etc. Of the threefold things we know about Brahman, the three standpoints, we only can discern the existence. How do you say that? How do you say you can only see Brahman from the standpoint of existence? Because when you go by, and we have talked about this, when you go by the rock and say, "Hi rock," does the rock say hi back? No. It hopefully doesn't. If it does, see me after class. Okay? Yeah. So the rock does not say hello back. Why? Because it doesn't. We've seen this earlier in a different verse. It lacks sukshma shariram. It doesn't have the mechanism to broadcast its existence. The broadcasting of this existence is called knowledge or sentience. Sentience alone, when that upadhi, when a particular name and form is bestowed with an antenna, for lack of a better term, to be able to broadcast its existence, that is what is called jnanam. Jnanam is not like knowledge of everything that is happening. That is not what we are talking about. So unlike the rock, if I say hello to you, you will say hello back. Why? How? Because like the rock, you enjoy the satta which belongs to Brahman, but you have a subtle body, a subtle upadhi as well, which the subtle part of the upadhi is the buddhi, mind, etc., which allows you to broadcast your own existence. Are you here? Yes. Yes, I am. Then the next question, when I say, how do you know that you are here? You will say, come on, what a stupid question. This is a silly question. What do you mean? Do I know I'm here? Of course I'm here. I am the proof of my own existence. How? Why? Because I am evident to myself, and everything in the universe, the existence of everything in the universe is evident to me. Rock is evident to me. I am evident to me. That is the difference between me and rock. Because rock is not self-evident. Why? Because there is no buddhi, there is no antahkarana. Rock is also Satchidananda, but the Chit, quote unquote, aspect and the Ananda aspect is unable to broadcast in the rock because it doesn't have the accoutrements, it doesn't have the upadhi for that. You see, this is avachedavada, because we are not talking of a reflecting medium. And then it is very kind of Swami Vidyaranya to use both these vadas so that this, that which is so terse is easily assimilated. So, satta eva vyajyate, satta alone is manifest, na itarat dvayam, not the other two. Which other two? Jnanam anantam, chit or ananda, same thing. Then he further says, he is building up to something. He says, satta chittirdvayam vyaktam dhivrittayor ghora mudhayoho. Satta chittirdvayam vyaktam dhrivittayor ghora mudhayoho. Shantavrittau trayam vyaktam mishram brahmethamiritam. Shantavrittau trayam vyaktam mishram brahmethamiritam. In the rock, etc., only the presence of Brahman can be cognitively understood, delineated. But in a buddhi crowded by ghora and mudha vrittis, behaviors, habit patterns, etc., then you can understand the satta, you can understand, okay, this buddhi exists. And then you are also self-cognizant, because you are able to say, I am restless. You are not restless, you are the observer of the restlessness. I am sad, I am angry. You are the observer of anger in the mind, you are the observer of sadness. So when you are able to broadcast that sadness or cognize the presence of the sadness, that cognizance of the presence of sadness happens because you are in the place of the Sakshi. And the Sakshi being sentient, you being sentient, you are able to cognize everything. Sadness, restlessness, elation, dejection, despair, anger, avarice, everything you are able to cognize within the buddhi. And so the chit of Brahman, the chit that is Brahman, is also discernible in the ghora and the mudha vrittis. Is it one better than the rock? I don't know. You tell me. But so this is very interesting. In insentient objects such as rock, you can cognitively delineate the presence of Brahman. When I say rock is, that isness does not belong to the rock, it belongs to Brahman. But then when I say bad mood in my buddhi is, then it is one up on the rock, because I am not only the cognizing the existence of the bad mood in the buddhi, but then I am not only cognizing the bad mood, but I am aware of its existence. Someone else doesn't have to come and tell me, you are in a bad mood. Often that happens, but that's because one is in denial. It's not that because one doesn't know. So, bad mood asti, rock asti, rock is, bad mood is. What is the difference? With regard to the bad mood, I can say, I discern the bad mood. Whereas with regard to the rock, only asti aspect is discernible. There is no awareness that belongs to the rock, but there is existence that is discernible and awareness that is manifest in the statement, I have bad mood in my buddhi. I hope that is clear. This is how it differs from the rock. So then, he is advertising the Shanta Vritti. One more reason to have a sattvic lifestyle and a sattvic vritti here is Shanta Vrittau. In a peaceful sattvic state of mind, what happens? Trayam Vyaktam. All three are discernible. Because a naturally tranquil person enjoying a tranquil mind will not be bothered by this or that, at least in the moment. The mind is like a placid lake, no disturbances or ripples or bubbles from within, and no winds of ill fortune disturbing the peace without. So such a mind for now is enjoying itself. So therefore, that such an entity endowed with this mind exists, yes, and that existence, of that existence one is aware, and one is also aware, right now I am having a peaceful time. I am happy. The happiness is also there in the bad mode. That happiness is not gone, it is eclipsed by the bad mode. Rahu and Ketu are the Ghora and Tamasika vrittis that envelop the mind and stop it from enjoying the Ananda of Brahman as the truth of oneself. But in a tranquil vritti, in a mind blessed by tranquil vrittis, something wonderful happens. Not only are the existence, not only is the existence of Brahman discernible, and not only is the what is that called? The awareness of the existence is appreciated, but also that awareness rests in Ananda, in the infinite truth of oneself as free of limitations. One may have a limited body, as it were, an even more limited mind. The only thing you can say about the mind is, never mind. That's all. That kind of a mind, which forgets everything all the time, which forgets what needs to be remembered, like where did you put your keys, but which remembers grudges from the previous life. What kind of a funny mind this is? So this kind of a mind, if one is able to command tranquility through sadhanas, and mainly through the understanding of oneself as Brahman, if one is able to command this tranquility, then Brahman shines uninhibitedly, nirvignam, and then it shines in the heart and in the mind, and that is understood as, today I am peaceful. Today I have nothing can get me down. Today I am beyond reproach. No self-blame, no blaming others. These are all. When that happens, this is Brahman talking, really. This is the discerning the presence of Brahman and enjoying oneself as Brahman, especially aided by Vedanta Shastra. So Trayam Vyaktam, all three are manifest. What all three? Satchidananda, all three manifestations of Brahman are discerned. And this is called Mishram Brahma Itham Iritam. Itham, in this manner, this mixed up Brahman. He introduces a new term. I thought I was mixed up and I needed help. That is why I came to Vedanta. Then studying the 21st verse of the Panchadasi, 15th chapter, now I am understanding even Brahman is mixed up. Ayyo, where shall I go now? Where is the hope for me? I already told you, a Vedanta teacher should talk like this permanently. And there should be the words as though written on top. You know, in the good old days, pre-pandemic days, when we could have these retreats in person, you know, we had this annual retreat some 2-3 years back, I think, 2 years ago. And then all the students, they made one big banner because I used as though so many times. Some of you may remember. So they made a big banner as though with all these apostrophes that could, that I could hang on top. So I could just point to that. So that I don't have, they were worried perhaps that I would have repetitive stress injury going like this all the time. 3 classes a day, satsang, everything, you keep going like this. Then you'll need some kind of a splint, to put here. So like this is so mixed up. Brahman is not mixed up. You are mixed up, okay? If you think Brahman is mixed up, never is it said that Brahman is mixed up. Then why does he say mixed up? Mixed up as though Brahman obtaining in a particular name and form. Rock, Brahman as rock, Brahman as frog, Brahman as lily, Brahman as sky, 5 elements, Brahman as rain, Brahman as the trees nourished by the rain. This is what is the as though mixed up. Mixed up, that's why, Pujya Swamiji, talking about Avachedavada, came up with a very nice word, conditioned. As though conditioned by various upadhis. This is what is called the mixed up Brahman. Brahman along with name and form, as it were, is called mixed up Brahman. Okay, there is no mix up at all. Let that be abundantly clear. So, Shanta Vrittau Trayam Vyaktam. So, if you are having a tranquil day, when you are in the tranquil mood, sattvic mood, full of sattva, then you have the dubious distinction of being mixed up Brahman. No, you can discern Brahman. You say this upadhi, is as though, this Brahman is as though conditioned by this upadhi. And the upadhi can be anything. Upadhi can be the entire body-mind-sense complex. If we are looking at how the infinite, limitless Brahman as though entered every name and form, or the upadhi can just be the buddhi. It all depends on the context. If we are looking at the state of the mind, how come it is not sattvic? Then we are talking of buddhi. Or if we are looking at the state of the mind saying, oh, I feel very tranquil today, my buddhi is blessed with serenity, then we are talking of buddhi as upadhi. Anything that holds is an upadhi, an as though container. Okay. So then the next one. अमिश्रं ज्ञानयोगाभ्यां तौ च पूर्वमुदीरितौ अमिश्रं ज्ञानयोगाभ्यां तौ च पूर्वमुदीरितौ आद्येऽध्याये योगचिन्ता ज्ञानमध्याययोर्द्वयोः आद्येऽध्याये योगचिन्ता ज्ञानमध्याययोर्द्वयोः. Of course, that raises the question, I am tired of mixed up Brahman. I told you earlier, I am myself mixed up, and then you are giving me this Brahman also mixed up, and you are trying to get away by using the words as though. No, I want pure Brahman. I want unmixed up Brahman. I don't want this mixed up Brahman. Name and form, name and form. And you are making me do all the hard work. You are making me do this, go from Vachyartha, the direct meaning of the word, to Lakshyartha, the indirect meaning of the word. And then I am supposed to retain what? Presence, and then all, awareness, and then Ananda, and then I am supposed to cognitively discard name and form. Why do I have to go through this rigmarole? Why can't Brahman show itself in an unmixed up form? Why not? Well, because we live in a manifest Jagat. So we can only have access to the manifest forms of Brahman. Okay, then that just shows that this is not the correct time to study Vedanta if I want unmixed up pure Brahman. I have to wait till the yuga goes, when everything is swimming, so to speak, in oneness. There are no more upadhis. Then I will know non-mixed up Brahman. It's like those elephant jokes, How did the elephant climb up a tree? How did it climb up a tree? It sat on an acorn and waited for it to grow. Then once it's up on a tree, we cannot leave the elephant there. How did it get down the tree? It sat on a leaf and waited for autumn to come. Okay, this is exactly like saying, I want unmixed up Brahman, I want to study pure Brahman, so I will wait till the yuga is resolved, till pralaya comes. Pralaya will come, definitely. And then along with that, your opportunities to study will also go, because pralaya means no differentiation. How will you differentiate yourself as a student? Not possible. And where will you get the guru? From Brahman soup. Soup means it's all one. There is no name and form. How will how will you get a guru? And where will the Shastra come from? This manifest world alone, this manifest universe alone gives a chance to study this knowledge and to not come under the spell of duality. In fact, to learn to enjoy the Dvaita. A person of knowledge enjoys Dvaita, doesn't get bogged down by it. And so, if anyone is looking for an unmixed up Brahman found only in between yugas, keep on dreaming, my friends. That is what one can say. So what is the option that is available to us to understand Brahman in an unconditioned form? Jnanam, that's all. Knowledge. Because in this whole explanation of the rock, you were able to appreciate Brahman. Were you not? Because as soon as we understood that the existence of the rock is not ascribed to itself, because we see the rock exists only for a certain time, in a certain place, in a certain form. But that existence continues to occupy the rock in its various iterations, starting from seed, sprout, tree, forest, and then climate change, and then, crashed tree, and the tree that has become compost, and then the sedimentation, and then the rock. Petrification. So, rock is, tree is, sedimentation is, petrification is, that is Brahman. And you can appreciate that through jnana and through yoga. Oh, really? Which asana I should do to appreciate Brahman? Please do all the asanas, okay? But here yoga means a committed lifestyle. A lifestyle that is committed to this understanding. A lifestyle that is based on karma yoga. Then we can totally understand You can totally understand the so-called unmixed up Brahman, because Brahman is never mixed up. Never ever ever mixed up. Where is the mix up? In your own head. The mix up is in our own heads. And here, in another quintessential act of adhyasa, transference, one is saying Brahman is mixed up. That's why we have to put as though there. Okay. So, amishram jnana yogabhyam taucha. So, and where do we go for understanding how understanding how to discern the names and forms, and then set them aside cognitively, and then understand Brahman, and then also how do we make our lifestyles conducive to gaining this knowledge? He says, please go back to the last two chapters. Please study the last two chapters. Purvam idirita, it was already described earlier. In the chapters Yogananda, Jnanananda, all these things were described. Adhyaye, Adye Adhyaye, in the previous chapter, actually he's not talking of the chapter previous to this. In one of the previous chapters, he's talking of chapter 11. Not to be confused with bankruptcy, because that is also called chapter 11. Okay. So in chapter 11, and then the chapter 12 and 13 all deal with the topic of lifestyle, the topic of this knowledge, etc., to gain this discernment. And so this has already been talked about. But I haven't read those chapters. Okay. I will repeat them here. If you haven't read those chapters, no problem. Asatta jadya dukkhe dve maya rupam trayam tvidam. Asatta nara shringadau jadyam kasthashiladishu. Asatta jadya dukkhe dve maya rupam trayam tvidam. Asatta nara shringadau jadyam kasthashiladishu. So, he is bringing in the concept of Maya to help us understand this Bhagatyaga Lakshana even better. What is Upekshita? What is not counted when we look at Brahman? What is it that is not looked into? What is it that is not counted? Is all Karya, effect. And who is responsible for this effect? Maya Shakti. And who is responsible to take the effect too seriously and think of everything as existent in and of itself? Maya Shakti in the form of Ajnanam. And so Maya has two iterations. From the standpoint of Bhagavan, Brahman, then she is all knowledge. She endows Brahman with all knowledge, the power to create, the power to manifest, take back, sustain everything, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. And then the same Maya makes the individual a dunce. That same Maya, the shadow side of Maya, endows the individual with Ajnanam.
Ignorance.
And this ignorance has to be removed. How to do that, etc., we will see in the next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.